Date September 6, 2017. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled. The same is provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilman Hache.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Seaton.
Here.
Councilman Voigt.
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh.
Here.
Mayor Knudsen.
Here. Please stand for the flag salute. Please join us in a moment of silence for our men and women serving our nation and for our first responders. Thank you. Yes, 1 minute. We'll begin, actually, we'll go now to public comments. Not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address. That's okay.
Hi, my name is Neil Weissman, and actually you're going to have copies of my extended remarks. I'm here on behalf of...
Could you just please state your address?
Sorry, name is Neil Weissman. The organization is Complete George, and it's a coalition of 170 organizations, businesses, communities, and public officials who are calling on the Port Authority to widen the bicycle pedestrian paths on the George Washington Bridge, and I'm here to ask the Village of Ridgewood for a letter of support. Essentially, I'll talk about the region, and then I'll come back to Ridgewood and why this is important to you. Between 2017 and 2024, the Port Authority is going to rip out and restore the 1931 paths on the George Washington Bridge as part of a $2 billion restoration project. The GWB is the only bikeable connector between North Jersey and New York City, and its 7-foot paths are already dangerously overcrowded at 3,700 cyclists per day, growing at 10% a year, which means we're on track for 9,000 cyclists a day by 2024, and there is no precedent for putting that many cyclists on that narrow facility. They will have to make it a walk-your-bike facility only, and that will essentially cripple cycling across the region for generations. And this will cost hundreds of millions of dollars in lost tourism, public health, property tax revenue, and resilience. Locally, widening the GWB on the positive side would drive the creation of a regional bike grid as envisioned by the Bergen Park Master Plan and also the Central Bergen Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan, which I believe Ridgewood is a part of. In terms of benefits, active transportation contributes $500 million a year to New Jersey's economy, or $56 per capita. Models created by the World Health Organization and the Columbia School of Public Health have stated that the exercise you get from cycling is the most cost-efficient public health intervention you can possibly come up with. National Association of Realtors hosts dozens of studies that if you put a bike path next to a home, the property value increases 5 to 10%. So it's a popular amenity with younger buyers, and it increases your property tax base. Cycling across the GWB is the only strategy that will reduce demand on the Midtown bus terminal, and to quote a popular television series, winter is coming. Over the next couple of decades, we can expect the Port Authority to replace both the Midtown bus terminal and the and Penn Station, which, if you think commuting sucks now, just wait. And if we lose a Hudson Rail Tunnel, we immediately lose 75% of all of our bike traffic, or our train traffic, and then the Ridgewood commuter group becomes the biggest bike group in the country. But even if you don't, even if nobody around here bikes, that still creates capacity, for the people who are further out. Essentially the people who support this include Ambassador Murphy, Congressman Pasquale, Cliffside Park, Edgewater, Fort Lee, Englewood, Cliffs, Fair Lawn, and a dozen bike shops between here and Rockland, including Ridgewood Cycles.
You did it, almost, but good. Great. Thank you very much. Actually, I believe that this was emailed to everyone as well. We'll take a look at it, and amongst ourselves, we'll have a conversation and decide if we want to endorse this project. It sounds great to me, so we appreciate your time, and we actually have a lot of bikers that take that route every day, so appreciate it. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you all.
Anyone else? Oh, good evening.
Hi, Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving. I know you've got a lot of emails about this, and I think we want to encourage people to attend the meetings, but when I tell you that you cannot hear a thing when people speak into this mic, when you watch it on TV, it's clear as a bell. You used to have it, I know there's a problem, but how about moving it on this side if the other side isn't good? I mean, it's really difficult. We want to take part. It's hard for us to hear anything. And my hearing's fairly good. Not great, but fairly good.
Thank you, Ellie. Come on up, Frank. Yep, come on up.
Hi, I'm Frank Mortimer at 426 Van Buren. I wanted to talk about Bee City USA. And I have handouts, which I can, all the resolution. Would everyone like that? My assistant, Bob James.
Who has beehives, too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, this was in our packet, I think.
Thank you.
In an effort to raise awareness and help pollinators and celebrate the achievements of our wonderful village, many of us here tonight are hoping to get Ridgewood designated as a Bee City USA. This is a relatively new organization that is similar to Tree City, only it focuses on pollinators instead of bees, or instead of trees. There are currently 53 bee cities across the country, and my dream is that Ridgewood will be the first bee city in New Jersey. Bee City USA is a nonprofit national organization that galvanizes communities to sustain pollinators, raise awareness of the vital role pollinators play in our communities, and what each of us can do to provide them with a healthy habitat so they in return can help us have a healthy habitat. Bee City USA aims to help pollinators by enabling affiliates to raise awareness, enhance habitats, celebrate achievements, and institutionalize the community's commitment to establishing and maintaining healthy pollinator habitats within the community's boundaries. Ridgewood is already doing what is required to be a designated bee city, and this program will only help to formalize what we already know. Ridgewood is a great town that is passionate about protecting its parks, wildscapes, and natural habitats. Through the Bee City program, we can publicly and formally let everyone know that Ridgewood protects its pollinators, and we are committed to providing them with healthy habitats. Additionally, this will unify many of Ridgewood's organizations under one cause, and it will afford the village the opportunity to raise awareness and celebrate the work of Ridgewood's many groups whose work benefits pollinators and creates a healthy environment for all of us. Last, it is a great way to educate the public on the importance of pollinators and what we can do to help them. Most importantly, Ridgewood is already doing everything that would qualify our village to be a Bee City USA, so other than passing this resolution, no changes or added responsibilities would be required. Most people are aware that bees are in trouble, and becoming a Bee City will generate a lot of positive buzz about our village. And Ridgewood will be an example of what other towns should be doing. I'm very excited about Bee City as it brings together the two things I'm very passionate about, bees and Ridgewood. I respectfully ask that the Village Council support Ridgewood becoming the first Bee City in New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Good evening, Rorik Holiday, 374 Evergreen Place. Could someone tell me what's happening with the garage or garages? It is very confusing for us residents to figure out what's going on. We get snippets of information about the Hudson Street and Walnut Street sites. Are we going to have one or both or neither? I also do not understand what we are doing looking to the redevelopment of the Hudson Street property to avoid a public bidding process. I believe the Deputy Mayor made mention of saving time and money. Now, knowing that you have already wasted 18 months since you came into office, it looks like you are now playing catch-up. What I find so miserably upsetting is the mayor continuing to operate behind the smoke screen in her deliberations. I will never forget the look of surprise on Mr. Voigt's and Ms. Walsh's faces when they first learned about the redevelopment so-called shortcut. If they were out of the loop, who's in it? Under the old administration, the village council had countless public meetings on the Hudson Street parking deck. They had Desmond, they had the architect, they had the CBD meetings, all talking about it. Why don't you do the same? What are you trying to hide? Is this Jersey politics? Or is something rotten in the state of Denmark? I'm very, very concerned. You need to be open. Thank you.
Good evening. Cynthia Hallaby, 374 Evergreen Place, and I'm here representing the Conservancy for Ridgewood Public Lands. And we support Frank Mortimer's plan for Bee City 100%. It's very much in keeping with what we are doing at the various properties that we're maintaining in town. Twinny Pond Park is an incredible host. I'm sure Mrs. Walsh has noticed the bees and the butterflies on the innumerable plants that we've put in, the milkweed and the bee balm. They're all teeming. At North Broad Street, the bees have discovered the clethra that we planted in the spring, which they love, amongst other natives and non-natives. And of course, we have our sensory butterfly garden, which is being planned behind the stable. So we have got plenty of spaces for these magnificent insects to find a lot of pollen. So again, we are completely supportive, and we really congratulate Frank on this wonderful idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now the public comments will close. Public comments, and I guess I am going to respond to.
Lisa Betancourt, 305 Gardner Road. Sharon Gilson and myself are also here to support Frank and the bee resolution. We just think it's a wonderful thing. He has spoken to our group before. We have quite a few members that have hives in their yard and on their farms and friends. And I think, as we all know, it's a wonderful thing now to have bees in our yard because we know what they can do. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Is there anyone else? Okay. With that, now we're really closing public comment. So let's just respond to the comment that suggests that there is some nefarious happenings in the village of Ridgewood with this village council, beyond how insulting it is and how wrong it is. The spread of misinformation is unfortunate and inappropriate. Some may have read an article in the Ridgewood News a couple of weeks ago about the garage and the area in need of redevelopment. And remarkably, the article, rightfully so, was entitled, "Village Council to Streamline Garage Bid Process." The exact same article, 2.5, 3 weeks later, hit the Bergen Record and the Bergen North Jersey Media Online, the exact same article, and now it was entitled, "Village Council to skirt the bid process." I have to say, I'm fascinated by it, and I know the newspaper buys ink by the barrelful, so I'll just be more in their crosshairs than I have been already. But the level of I guess it's just disingenuous to suggest to residents, or maybe not get enough interest in an article entitled something remarkably accurate, that we were interested in streamlining the process, and they needed more clicks and more activity, so they decided to sensationalize something, and it's simply not true. Think about it. As a matter of fact, I have this great little piece on my phone, and I show the two articles side by side. Village Council's going to streamline, Village Council's going to skirt. One is accurate. The other suggests wrongfully that this Village Council is doing something wrong. Dirty Jersey politics. It's wrong, it's unacceptable, and those kind of comments will not be tolerated. Simply not true. No time has been wasted. We're working through processes that will afford us options, and if the planning board makes a determination that the Hudson Street lot meets the criteria as a redevelopment zone, we will proceed from there. We're confident moving forward, and the deputy mayor was accurate. Hopefully this will save time and, more importantly, very valuable taxpayer dollars that, quite frankly, I take very seriously. So with that, we'll be moving on.
Our first item is a under budget awarding of a contract to repair a storm sewer. We have a collapsed storm sewer on the portion of Circle Avenue just south of East Ridgewood Avenue. The current corrugated metal pipe has failed. We have to replace some linear feet of pipe across East Ridgewood Avenue, and included in this work will also be a seepage tank, and that'll capture some of the runoff and reduce the impact down gradient on Circle Avenue. We've looked at our streets department. Unfortunately, they're unable to replace the failed pipe. So we contacted 3 local contractors. We got 2 quotes from the 3. The lowest quote is from OnQ Technologies, and we have worked with them before. And so we are looking to be able to do this project before the colder weather comes, because it's collapsing further and further. It's becoming an indent in the street. And so we are going to put this onto our special public meeting this evening so that we can expedite it a bit. I didn't know if there were any questions. I think it's pretty straightforward. If you've been to Circle, you've seen it. It usually has cones around it because it's so depressed into the street. Okay, so we're good. All right.
All right, so we'll have a motion to suspend the work session and convene a special public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman O'Shea?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Seaton?
Yes.
Councilman Boyd?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor Knudsen?
Yes. You all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall by mail to the Ridgewood News, the record, and by submission to all persons entitled. The same is provided by law. The schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilman O'Shea?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Seaton?
Here.
Councilman Boyd?
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh?
Here.
Mayor Knudsen?
Here. We're going to start with the public hearing on the Open Space Trust Fund grant application for the Maple Park Turf Field.
Let me just give a brief explanation if I could.
Go.
Annually, the Village of Ridgewood applies for Bergen County open space funding for a municipal park improvement program. For this year, we've looked at the Maple Park Synthetic Turf Field Replacement Project. This is a 50-50 matching grant between the county and the village. $100,000 is what we're requesting from the county, and then the village will also provide $100,000, and then from our own municipal open space trust fund. And then also we have capital funding from the village, which was in the 2017 capital budget of $284,305. So this was physically examined by our professional staff with the unanimous support of the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Board. We've deemed the replacement of the 12-year-old turf field to be essential at Maple Park East. This will provide a safe, durable surface to to the existing multipurpose fields, which encompasses play for soccer, Little League baseball, girls softball, lacrosse, football, and additional active and passive recreational play purposes. They changed the requirements just within the last year or so, that you have to have a public hearing in order to put in an application for this funding, for these grants. And so this is the public hearing this evening. It was advertised in the newspaper, and so at this time we can proceed with the public hearing.
The public hearing on the application for the Open Space Trust Fund grant for the Maple Park East Turf Field is now open.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I remember Councilman Hache talking about this with respect to articles that appeared in the press concerning a class action suit against the manufacturer of the field, and because the field disintegrated prior to the guaranteed lifespan, and that there being monies available as a result of a class action lawsuit to help offset the cost of paying for the field. When the manager gave her report this evening about this project, I heard nothing about monies coming from this fund. I heard about 2 grants, and then it sounds like the taxpayers are kicking in some money. So where is the money that is associated with this class action lawsuit against the manufacturer, and can we recoup any of that money so that taxpayer expense is kept at a minimum?
So do you want to respond to that? Yeah.
If you want me to respond to it. We did have several meetings with representatives of Field Turf, which is the single, it's a company that we got the Field Turf from in the first place back in 2005 or 6, and it is the one that's involved in the class action suit. Our issues are similar but different from that, or than that which apply to the class action suit, but nonetheless we've had discussions. We are working out parameters of an agreement, which I can't go into publicly at this point in time, but there are parameters that are being worked out to try and defray the full cost of what it would be for putting in a brand new turf field. So that's underway, and there'll probably be more information about it later on. It's not going to be not going to be a situation where Field Turf is going to give us a completely new free turf field. It's still going to cost money. In fact, with any of the class action suits, they've never done a complete warranty payment for a new turf field for anybody. Most of them deal with schools down south because the component of the way the field turf is made has to do with heat absorption, and the heat and the constant sun on the turf field made them wear away. We didn't have that problem. We had kind of an intermittent issue with regard to a number of floods and some silt from the flooding that dealt with it, so we're a little bit different in that regard. But we are negotiating with them and are talking with them about defraying some of the costs.
But you cannot say what the amount is going to be, if there is going to be an amount.
Even if I knew, I may not be able to tell you, but I don't know where we are. I don't know what the final determination is going to be as yet, because there's still discussions going on.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's it. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes. Okay.
We have the resolutions, there's 3 resolutions. Would you like me to read them individually, or would you like me to, would you like to approve them by consent agenda?
I'm good with the consent agenda. Is everyone okay with the consent agenda?
Does anyone object? Okay. We have 3 resolutions, 17-248. I'll read them by title. 17-248, award professional services contract, rate analysis study for Ridgewood water lawsuit, not to exceed $52,000. 17-249, Title 59 approval, repair to storm sewer, Circle Avenue. 17-250, award contract, repair to storm sewer, Circle Avenue, not to exceed $32,936. And I'll take a vote.
I move the consent agenda.
Second. Hache?
Yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes. Okay. Motion to adjourn the special public meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second. Hache?
Yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes. Okay. And we're reconvening our work session, so we're back. We're starting with Ridgewood Water.
Okay, so our first subject under Ridgewood Water is a purchase of chlorine analyzers and supplies under the state contract. It's going to Hatch Company, who's actually out of Colorado. This is in the Water Department operating budget, and it allows us to exceed the statutory limit of $17,500.
Questions, comments?
Okay. The next one is professional survey work. This is a survey for the purchase on the Elks Club property. I know that the attorneys are currently working on the contract, and so if we don't have a contract yet by next week, we won't do this resolution, but if we do, we will. So we don't know, at this point if we will or not. So if not, it'll be continued until next month. Okay?
Moving on.
So the next one is parking, the valet parking concession pilot program rebid. So I think this is about the third or fourth time we've gone out. This is for the 3 months from October 1st to December 31st of this year. 2 plan holders were eligible to bid. We received 1 bid, and it's to provide valet attendance on Friday and Saturday nights from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. for 2 locations, one being on Van Ness Square on the opposite side of the bus terminal, and the other one, it's both sides, actually, along the concrete divider. And the other one is up by the intersection of Broad Street and East Ridgewood Avenue, and that's in that parking lot where we normally put the Christmas tree. The bid quoted for this is $36,218. Hourly rates quoted were $31.50 for the valets and $36.50 for the valet supervisor. So the only, and the lowest and only bid was from LAZ Parking. They're the previous bidders as well. And when we had tried a 6-month pilot program, their quoted rates for the hourly rate was a little bit lower with the 6-month program. We are going to provide a location for them to park these vehicles if we decide to move forward. I've spoken to Bob Rooney, our CFO, and he has indicated there is funding available in the current budget to try this pilot program from October 1st to December 31st. As I said, the main thing we do have to work out internally is where exactly these cars are going to be parked, but I'm sure we'll be able to do that. So it's up for discussion by the council whether or not you want to pursue this pilot program or not at this time.
Okay. Discussion, questions?
Yeah, do we expect, this is for 3 months, right?
Yes,
Okay.
October to December.
So do we expect that rate is going to, from an annualized basis, is going to remain, so it's like $150,000 a year for this? Is that, what's any thinking on that?
Well, we don't know, because again, it was a lower hourly rate when we did the 6 month.
Right.
So it could very well be that for a year, it could be even lower than that. I think, they're willing to give it a try. We might be willing to give it a try, see if it works, see how it works, see where we could tweak it, and, possibly then go out next year, learning from this experience, how we could proceed with a central valet.
Okay, thank you.
I guess would one of the places where the cars are being dropped off is near the Christmas tree. Would that interfere with the Christmas tree at all, or anybody kind of walking by? Or
That one night, it may, but the one night of downtown for the holidays,
Right.
that will be probably a location we won't be able to use.
Yeah.
But other than that, just on a nightly, weekend basis, I don't think it'll really interfere much at all.
Okay, and it is for the all-important fourth quarter of the year,
Correct.
so I'm sure the businesses will appreciate a little bit of parking relief, at least for this holiday season until we get the garage that should be hopefully built by next holiday season.
And it may encourage people to shop in Ridgewood
Right.
too, knowing that they can have, a valet parking and be able to find a place during the all-important holiday season coming up.
Thank you.
So the challenge I have with this is that it's from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m., so I'm assuming it's not for shoppers, it's just for restaurant goers. And there's no guarantee, or I guess there's no way to know who's going to be using it, so I'm worried that we're going to be funding parking for out-of-towners, so that they'll be coming into our CBD, and it's, $36,000 for 3 months, whereas we could be using that money to do something else. So,
Well, it's not free, we're not paying for it. We're paying for the labor, but there's a charge per vehicle to cover that.
so what is the $36,000 for?
Well, we have to pay the vendor, but there will be a charge per vehicle at each of the stations. That could be paid by the shopper or the
Oh, I don't
diner,
think it says that in here.
because it's not part of the bid. That's just what we're engaging the services of lazy parking for. So they're just here to provide a service. We hire them to
Oh,
do
so
the
we're
work.
going to recoup this money.
Right, so either the shopper, the diner will pay for it, or it will be subsidized by the businesses that they'll be frequenting.
Okay, so that doesn't say it in the bid then, so that's what I was
Right.
confused about. So this is separate from...
This is just to hire them to provide valet parking people.
Do we have a separate agreement already with the businesses then?
We don't, but it could be, and this is something that obviously we can discuss with the Chamber of Commerce and the Guild. Some may choose to reimburse or to validate, the parking, and some may not. If you go to some of our local malls, such as Garden State Plaza, I know that you can do valet parking and you pay, and it's a convenience, because then you don't have to look around for a parking place. And, that's an option for people. It provides that option.
But the 6 to 1 a.m., that's when we have the most empty spots. So if you go down to Cottage Street between 6 and 1 a.m., you're going to find...
Except some people may not want to walk that far to where they're going, in the cold, in the snow. I mean, that's up to them. It's an option. It's not a requirement. So they could choose to valet park, just as you can choose to valet park anywhere, usually.
It's also the only time that we're going to have spaces available in the lots to be able to put the cars
Right.
while
Yeah.
they're parking them now.
Okay, so when the other agreement is ready, I'd like to see what ends up coming out of those agreements or those conversations.
Well, it's not going to be an agreement. It's just going to be what we propose for the charging, working with the Chamber and the Guild to determine what the proper per-car fee shall be. Am I correct, Councilman Hache?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make
As long as the
sure.
money comes back to us, that's all I'm concerned about.
Solomon, I have a suggestion, or a question. I actually think this is a good idea. And the issue is second seatings at restaurants. A lot of these restaurants lose patrons because they have to drive around forever to find a parking place. And it would be nice to see, or actually monitor what's going on in the restaurants with the second seatings to understand whether or not they're starting to get those reservations at the 8, 9 o'clock. And that probably could help us understand whether this is worthwhile or not, and my guess it probably is, so.
Part of the challenge is, when we talk to all the different restaurants, is that the difficulty with valet parking on Ridgewood Avenue or most of the streets in Ridgewood, they're so narrow. So they're not conducive to hosting a valet program. So only 4 restaurants are authorized to do it. 3, in practical terms, are actually applying it. But the other restaurants say, hey, I would love to have one. I feel like I'm at a sort of competitive disadvantage by not being able to have valet parking, just by virtue of where I'm located. So the nice thing about this is that it would open it up for everyone to be able to support Some may choose to subsidize, some may not. But, I think after the first, second week, it becomes pretty obvious to those who are using the service of where the restaurants where they can go and sort of have parking validated and so on. And, the fee is not going to be so prohibitive that you can only use it if it's being subsidized. It's a fee that it'll be low enough that you can use it, and it'd just be nice if the restaurants would be willing to cover. Now, it's up to the restaurants how they want to cover. They may cover for any bill, or they may say, look, any tab above a certain amount. Because when we've had other programs run privately through restaurants, at one point in time, for one of the restaurants that was the highest user of the service, it ended up being about 15% of every tab. And for a restaurant, a 15% haircut, it's just not sustainable. So we're hoping to keep it low enough that it's not going to be painful. But for a restaurant also, you're only paying for what your customers are using. Where right now, those three restaurants, on average, easily paying $50,000 a year each to supply that, the program for the customers. So if we say the fee is $5, just throw some arbitrary number, at $5, and if it's costing me $50,000 to run my own valet program, unless I'm having 10,000 customers park a car through my system, my break even now is much lower if I can just use this service. And the two locations are nice because it's going to put a central valet location within 1 or 2 blocks from most restaurants in town. But hopefully once we have a garage built, we can use that location to park the cars in the evening, and also maybe on like a Saturday or Sunday. But that's down the road.
And as we get closer to the holidays, it's possible that some of the stores may stay open, maybe on a Thursday or a Friday night. And if it's Friday, that would work with the valet.
Yeah, and the one issue that I have with valet, currently is that if I'm going to a restaurant, well, it's very convenient for me, and I love the fact that people are, using valet because that's one less person who's driving around looking for parking. But if you go to that restaurant and you eat, have a meal, and leave, you haven't walked past another storefront in the downtown. With this, by having 2 locations, you're actually kind of forcing people to walk past storefronts and maybe give businesses the incentive to be open maybe an extra hour or so, just because you're creating some foot traffic in the evening.
Yeah, so I love this. The only thing, and I do agree about the stores being open, and I wonder if it's not something, because our willingness to do this really speaks volumes about our desire to support the Central Business District, our restaurants and our stores. And as somebody who goes downtown to eat, I think that it's nice when you can walk up the street and then do some shopping. So I wonder if the chamber and the guild couldn't come together and say to the stores, look, they're willing to do this, but they need a little bit of a give back too. Will the stores be willing to open on Fridays and Saturday nights throughout the holidays, because that's foot traffic and that keeps a vibrant Central Business District because it keeps things hopping and happening. So I think that might be something to go back. I think it's exciting, and I'm glad we're doing this. I think the 2 locations actually work out much better. I still like the Van Ness, I like that little loop around. It almost seems like a natural fit for valet. But I do think that it would be nice if we're doing this, that there would be that extra effort on the part of the CBD shops. And I get that, it's hard to staff as small business owners, because then you wind up staying there for those extended hours. And then, because otherwise you're staffing with, youngsters, and which is great too, extra work. But I think that would be a nice little give back on top of it. But yeah, we like this.
So you're willing to award this contract at next week's meeting?
Did we try and go back and negotiate that rate?
We haven't. I don't think we can negotiate because each time we've changed it.
Well, you have to, if it was put in the bid, you have to utilize the bid. I don't know what they came back with from there. If the rate wasn't in the bid, but that's something that they proposed, you can certainly work it so that if there was only one plan holder, you're going to put it out again, see if that's not what you want. It has to not fit into the scale of prices that you were considering originally in order to be able to directly negotiate with them.
So can we just take a look at that and maybe?
I think the rates were in the bid.
Oh, okay.
So the hourly rates as well as the overall bid. So I don't, and because
We
we
have to
have,
do it again, we don't really have time to
and we
do
don't
it.
have
Okay, all
time.
right,
I mean,
fine,
yeah,
so-
all right, got it.
unfortunately.
All right, okay, all good.
Okay, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So the next item is parking reconfiguration at the train station. This was prepared by Petrie Traffic and Engineering, John Jar. He's proposed two changes. One is an absolute minimal approach. It's the simplest, fastest, and cheapest way, and it'll add approximately 17 or 18 additional spaces. And then another one, maximum improvements based on various assumptions, that the entrances and exits remain as is, no changes to the buildings, no changes to the curb lines. It reconfigures the south parking lot, and it almost doubles it to 52 spaces. And the main lot is changed to uniformly organize the parking. There is some loss of green space, but the primary improvement is organization. So this is really just up for discussion if you wanted to, pursue one or the other. So we'll just give it to you.
So anybody?
Yeah, what's the status with the historical preservation situation? I know that Cynthia Hallaby had been concerned about that, and that there were some issues. I don't know where we are with that. Can you help me understand?
They're waiting for additional information from us. We have to decide which configuration we're going to go with before we give them that additional information.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. It refreshed my memory. Did we contract for John to do this?
yes,
We did,
everyone
okay.
agreed that we were going to have
Got it.
him
Okay,
take a
fair
look
enough.
at it.
All right, thank you.
So, I mean, the original idea was just to look at I guess, the north parking lot and reconfigure it, and it was a minimal loss of green space. So I guess what Mr. Jar does is he gives us the least impactful and then the most impactful. So, I mean, the most impactful is definitely a bit too much. I mean, overdevelopment's overdevelopment, whether it's parking spaces, parking garages, or apartments. Too big is just too big. So, but I think the thought of maybe doing something with the south parking lot, if we could get more details on that, could be interesting, because I wouldn't, I'd want to have a minimal loss of green space in the north, and like I said, I was all for the original idea, and I thought it was a good idea. It doesn't add too much, it doesn't take away too much, and it adds critically needed parking for commuters. But maybe some more details on, exactly how much loss of green space you would have in the south lot, and maybe just a better idea of how that might be configured would help to decide whether we want to go that route, and that should be about it.
Anyone else? So I've actually been commuting by train again, and have paid particular attention coming and going. In the morning, there's no cars there, so it's not an issue. But coming home, it's going to be tight. It's really going to be tight there. Even if we, even kind of coming into the section here, because with this big lane here, people are, in a rush to get home, and they back out very quickly. And it's been more than one occasion where I've almost been, you have to kind of honk your horn to remind them that there are cars in that lane. So now you're going to have double the traffic and a car trying to squeeze through that middle. Until I actually physically did it multiple times and really paid attention, it's really going to be tight there. I don't know if this distance between here is the same width. Is it the same width as the other side? Because the other side just doesn't seem as congested, but when you come around this turn, it's tight. It's tight with just a single lane. So now even to cut in and have these other cars backing out, and like I said, once you do it multiple times and kind of drive through there, it's, and obviously it will promote more people parking there, so the spots will be filled. It's not they won't be vacant, let's put it that way. So that would be my concern with it. And I agree with the deputy mayor that, other configuration is, you know, it serves a purpose, but, you know, it's going to be a lot. So, those are my thoughts.
It's a bit aggressive,
So, Councilman Hache, anything?
But yeah, I mean, I just as echoes the comments so far, I think that the higher number solution, I think it's definitely way too aggressive. I mean, we essentially lose all the green space on the lot, and I too have made that turn there, and I'm looking at it here, I just don't know how that's going to work, especially because we have a drop-off zone.
Yeah, here.
I don't know how you can squeeze a car between a drop-off zone and the next parking spot. So inevitably, you're going to have some congestion backing up down the whole line there.
So, I think these were his, did he have the CAD file when he did this? I don't believe so, right? Okay, so he's still waiting for the CAD file, so these are kind of mock-ups, so we're not really certain. So, of course, I agree, but what's really amazing about this big plan is when you reconfigure a parking lot, not that, I don't think this is appropriate for this particular parking lot, but what's fascinating is that when you reconfigure and organize the parking, how much more parking you actually have that you don't realize. And in that exercise is an eye-opener and totally worth it. Because for me, it was just fascinating, that difference. And it is definitely more organized. Heather, just a quick question. If we were to have this refined more, and as Councilwoman Walsh is pointing out, that narrowness there, and I'm pretty sure whatever it is on the other side, it's going to be on the same, so maybe that one space has to get lost. But my one question is, if we were going with this design, one of John Jar's from Petrie, who would handle SHPO then?
Then it would have to be Petrie.
Okay.
Because Chris can't certify someone
Right,
else's
got it,
work.
okay.
So.
All right, good, okay, important to know. Okay, so should we, I guess we'll just keep moving forward with it then?
So we want a better plan for the smaller configuration, is that what you're asking?
I think that's what we...
Okay, and then we'll bring that back, I guess, at the end of September, to discuss it again. Maybe John can be here at that meeting and maybe present it to us.
And then by then, maybe we'll have that, we should have that CAD file?
I would hope by then we would have it, yes.
Okay, great, okay, perfect.
And I would encourage you guys to go at like 6:30, 7 o'clock to see how,
in the evening.
yeah, how it, yeah, in the evening, to see how it empties out, to see.
Okay. Okay, all right, moving on.
Okay, the next one is CBD, it actually says CBD parking, it's CBD employee parking in the North Walnut Street lot. In the lot across from the TD Bank, next to where the town garage is, that small square-type lot, we've allocated one side for CBD employee parking and the other side for commuter parking. What we found is the CBD employee parking is full every day, and we have employees asking our parking enforcement officers or police officers in the CBD, where can I park if I'm an employee? What we are proposing is, and usually on the commuter side, there's one or two cars. This wasn't only just during the summer, it was also in June. So what we are proposing is to take the commuter spots away and just in that small square spot, have it be all CBD parking, allow those CBD employees to park there, which is what we're trying to do, is get them away from the front of the stores and off of the street parking. And we believe it'll be filled. This is from observations from Sergeant Jay Chuck, who is our traffic bureau, and he does go down there and monitor it. And this is his recommendation, and so it's up for discussion.
Heather, what's the status with Cottage Place? I mean, is that still kind of...
It's not, it's underutilized.
Yeah.
It is, and I think, being the furthest away, and there are some stores there, obviously, and it is being used, but not as much as, and what Sergeant Chuck was saying is we could give additional spots to CBD if they end up, jumping there for some reason, because that is a lot that tends not to fill in general, whether it's commuters or shoppers, diners, unless it's a very busy day in the CBD, that tends to be the one that has spots. I always find that's the one that has spots, personally.
So is it the employees that are working, I guess, fairly close to the North Walnut Street area that are using that? They don't want to walk the...
They don't want to go to Cottage.
Yeah, they don't want to...
Some of them are getting out in the evening, it's getting darker earlier, and, it's a walk in the dark, and some may not want to do that. But, he's confident that it'll be filled. If we find out it's not, after, if we change this, find out it's not, we can certainly change it back, But that's what his recommendation is at this time.
Yeah, I think we've given enough time for both commuters and employees to adapt to the changes. Remember, all this happened at the beginning of the year. I'm not surprised that there's a lot of demand for that area. I mean, it happens to be kind of right in the middle of the CBD. So in terms of whether you work one block up or one block down, it's a more convenient location for most than Cottage Place. I know with Cottage, we originally had designated 60 spaces, and then we reduced that to 45.
Right.
I'm not surprised that commuters necessarily don't want to, park in that lot. I mean, it's not, but I certainly support making more spaces available to the CBD employees. To your point, Heather, I think it's again, a good way to get employees to stop parking in front of their stores or, taking up valuable spaces that should be for shoppers and diners.
So how many CBD employee permits have we sold?
Offhand, I don't know. I can get that number for you.
Because that number should correlate with the amount of, I'm sure the chamber has given us the number of employees in the CBD to try to match it, because if the number is really low, then they are still parking in front of the stores, or they're parking somewhere that is not
but
part
that was
of
the worst part of it, and I'm trying to remember what the number was, but I know at one point in time, the number of employee passes that were purchased exceeded the numbers that we designated for employee parking.
Right, because a lot of them work part-time.
Right.
And so therefore, you may have 4 or 5 part-time workers, and they're going to each have a CBD employee permit, so.
Right, but it ended up now creating a double issue, because the spaces that should have been designated for parking for employees weren't being used.
Correct.
Which means that the spaces on the street are still being used. So now, they're essentially taking up 2 spaces instead of 1.
Right.
Right, but this is an easy metrics to do. Find out how many people have gotten them, how many employees there are, and then if they're looking to park more in the middle
Did we
district.
ever get a number of how many employees? I know, Jeff, didn't you do a survey of how many employees?
Well, so, back in the beginning of the
It was
year.
difficult, I'm sure.
Yeah, there were 200, well, this is just the restaurants, there were 280 employees from restaurants parking in that 3-block area closer to the train station. And that was a killer.
So we would be only giving them 10% of that amount, so where are the other 90% parking? Right?
Street.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but so walking to Cottage Street, or, like just giving them another 13 spots, we're not solving the problem.
But it'll
Cottage
help
Street is
solve it
always, when I
somewhat.
drive by Cottage, it's empty. The spot, and it's frustrating for when you're looking for a spot and you're not an employee to see a whole row of them empty. So there's
Right, and so that may also be that we reallocate spots for
So we put
regular.
13 back in Cottage and then take 13 here. But the net number of spots is still the same. We just have to see if,
Right, but we could do that.
yeah.
But I think right now the point is that we have this whole line of spots for commuters, and nobody's parking, and the commuters aren't
There's 2
parking in
maybe,
there, and then
2 or 3.
you can't have employees in there, and then, people just visiting may or may not be parking in there, but it's definitely not being used. So if we change it, and there is this demand, and police officers in the central business district are hearing that people are looking for these spaces and they like them, then maybe they fill up. But if, we don't do anything right now, we're still just going to have that row of spaces where there are no commuters parking. So we could try it and see if it works, and if the demand isn't what the police thought and there's not enough spaces being filled, then you'd switch it to shoppers and diners. Because you already know that commuters didn't want to use it, and if this happened in the beginning of the year, here we are now 9 months into it, and they're still not using it. So I think it's, if there is a demand, I think it'd be worth, trying to just change it and see if we could fill those spots.
I actually think the good news is, where we were last year kind of grappling with these numbers and trying to figure out, and all the CBD employees were parking on the street, and nobody was parking in these lots, that we've actually been able to change the behavior and successfully move X number of people off the street spaces and into these lots. I think it's a great thing, and so if that's who's looking for the spaces, let's shift those back. And as we always said, we would monitor this and tweak it as we go, and then we'll go back to cottage and switch those back then, shift those back
least
into
13
where
of them.
the 13, at least 13. Well, maybe we have to do more.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly do that at the same time, in a separate ordinance or the same ordinance, but this way at least it will be, 13 for 13 right off the bat, so that would be a good idea probably.
It's probably a good idea to get on it now because we're heading into that fourth quarter, so
Yeah.
we don't want anyone going there and seeing all those empty spaces.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
So is everyone okay with doing that? Yes, okay, good. Okay, so now we move on to B-City USA. Mr. Mortimer was here. He really summarized it well. I don't think I need to summarize it any further. As he mentioned, no municipality in New Jersey is yet a B-City USA, so that would be quite a feather in our cap, I think. It is a $200 annual fee, which is, minimal. But if you're in favor, we could certainly adopt the resolution and then pursue submitting the application to become a B-City USA.
I'd just like to say Mr. Mortimer came to our Green Team meeting last night, and he gave a full presentation, and the Green Team was very supportive of the idea, and the Green Team would like to see this go through. So it was very exciting. He was very excited about it. Got us very excited about it. So I'm fully in support of this.
Anyone else?
I'd just say my family has raised bees my whole life, and you guys probably know the one thing that can get a beehive down, a bear. That's what got our last hive, our Italian bees. And but this is great, and yes, Twinney Pond is a perfect place for the bees to rest themselves and enjoy the scenery. So I think this is a great idea.
I think this would be great.
So our claim to fame will be the first bee city in the state of New Jersey.
Yes.
And that's good. That's all good.
Okay. So we'll do the resolution next week.
Next week. Next week it'll be official. Okay.
Okay. We have Mr. Rooney here, our CFO, to discuss the quarterly financial statements for our various operating and our 2 utility budgets. And he'll discuss that. In addition, he'll also discuss the results of our recent note sale.
Good evening. So lots of good news. First thing is we had a note sale in August. We had 3 bidders. We sold approximately $13 million of notes. We wound up with an effective rate of 1.096, which is fantastic for a municipality and going rate. So very proud of doing that. That's what happens when you're AAA. As far as budget goes, we're on budget for all funds. Provide you with a copy of, I think you got the general fund, and then today you got the water and parking fund. In going through the current fund, most of the revenue shortcomings right now are primarily due to timing. A lot of our billings that we send out for many of these line items go out in June, and because we're a cash basis, we can't realize anything until it's collected. So for the most part, overall, we're at 49% of what we budgeted, what we anticipated, and I don't see any areas in here that would indicate there's any concern over the revenues. For the appropriations in the general fund, again, there's a lot of, it's a timing on when individuals are hired in your salary areas. We have open positions whereby we would have money less than what we anticipated to have spent at this point in time. In some cases where we're over, we do have some people that have been moved around within departments that have not yet taken effect. So that would lead credence to why some may be above what we budgeted and some below what we budgeted. But for the most part, we're at, I think it's at 51%, which again, to me is right on track and nothing to be concerned. It's a positive thing. In the water utility fund, our revenues are at 42% of our anticipation for rents, which is a direct result of the weather we've had. So we've had plenty of rain, so our usage has been below what we anticipated. By the same token, on the appropriation side, we are at 39% of our budgeted for other expenses, which is a direct result of the excess water because that's less water that we have to purchase. So they offset each other. Our appropriations on the water side are approximately 40% of our anticipated appropriation. Revenues are about 44%. Again, they offset each other, so I think we're right on target. And in the parking utility fund, our revenues are at 47% of budget. The parking meter revenue being at 46%, and that is a direct result of our increase in the use of Park Mobile. Since we don't get 100% of what the usage is on a cash basis. On a cash basis, we get 100% on Park Mobile, we get 85%. So that's a direct result of the decrease in the revenue because of the increase in usage of Park Mobile. And on the appropriation side, we have two positions. We have a new PEO that started in August, that was started in August, so not reflected in the budget. And everything else is just a direct result of projects that haven't been accelerated yet through the year. Any questions?
1.09%, huh? Congratulations on that.
Yes, excellent.
Fantastic rate.
We're very happy with that.
Yeah. Everybody should be very happy with that. I mean, everything, the total for all departments is, like you said, it's pretty good. It's like 49%, 51%, right around there. So for half of the year, it seems like everybody's pretty close to on point with their budgets. So I'd just like to thank you and all departments for adhering to the budget and giving us a good half of the year report.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I agree, actually, ditto, so thank you, and thank you to everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good.
Thank you. Our next thing is to the Bergen County Historic Preservation Grant for the Zabriskie Shedler House Phase 1. This is so we can enter into the contract to receive the grant money of $116,725. This is for Phase 1 of the house, which is the roof stabilization and the planning documents. And we will provide the matching $116,725. It requires pre-qualifying vendors in order for us to use them for the grant program. And this adds a little more time to the length of the project, but it guarantees that the work will qualify for reimbursement through the grant. The scheduled dates right now are plans and bid documents completed by November 30th. We'll begin construction approximately April 2018 and completing the work by July 31st, 2018. And obviously, as we move along, it'll be condensed as much as possible, dependent on the weather and things like that. So.
Questions or comments? Okay, so I just actually wanted to thank Janet Fricke for her work on this, and this is just really a wonderful opportunity, just a little bittersweet at this time.
The next item is authorizing a partial release of escrow funds for 309 Maston Place LLC. They're asking for the release of their $10,000 cash bond. The funds are being held. They've not completed their stormwater drainage improvements, nor have they satisfied the village COA residential development fees. They have since completed that stormwater drainage improvement satisfactorily, according to our engineering department. The developer has not paid the required COA fees, which amount to $4,225. So the resolution would be to refund the $5,745, which is a $10,000 less than $4,225. So that is what we're releasing at this time.
Questions, comments, anyone?
Okay, the next one is the award of contract for Somerville Tennis Court renovations. 8 packets were picked up for the bid, 2 submissions were received. The lowest bidder is American Tennis Courts out of Baltimore, Maryland. The funding is through the 2017 capital budget, and it's $49,500.
Questions, comments?
The next one is the second-year contract for the furnishing and delivering of polymer for the water pollution control facility. It conditions the sewer sludge before it is hauled off-site for final disposal. 1 holder, 1 bid. The responding bid was from George S. Coyne Chemical Company, $31,020 for 11,000 pounds. The second year with no change in price, so we're at the second year. And the vendor has agreed to hold the price. So again, this is the second year of a 2-year contract.
Questions or comments?
The next one is furnishing and delivery of sodium bisulfite solution and sodium hypochlorite solution, again for the water pollution control facility. 5 holders of the plans. We received 4 responding bids. Maine Pool and Chemical Company was the low bidder. They submitted a complete bid package. They've supplied chemicals to the village in the past, and we have an option to extend it for an additional year at this time next year. This is for January 1st through December 31st of next year. So it's found in the it will be found in the 2018 operating expense budget.
Moving on. Everybody's okay with that?
The next one is furnishing laboratory analysis services for the water pollution control facility and also the Graydon Pool facility. The outside laboratory services perform analysis required by NGDP and US EPA for the wastewater treatment plant and the pool complex. We received 1 bid, Garden State Laboratories. They increased their bid over the past 2 years' bid by a little less than $1,500, $1,456.65. Garden State has performed these services for the past 4 years successfully. Funding is in the 2018 operating budget because, again, it's January 1st, 18 through December 31st, 18.
I just hope the lab doesn't mix up the samples.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, we don't want that again. Okay.
All right. The next one is snow plowing services. This is a second-year bid. Last year, we received 3 bids for the snow plowing services. Conquest Construction was the lowest bid. This year, we asked if they would hold their rates for the second year. They agreed to do so. So therefore, they're asking to award it to Conquest again for the second year. And they have plowed snow for us successfully for the past 6 years. Okay. The next one is state contract vendors, threshold increases for the IT department. The first is for Dell. This is for upcoming projects of server upgrades and end-of-life replacements for software licensing. The additional is not to exceed $200,000. The other one is for SHI, upcoming projects for networking equipment, testing tools, printers, connectors, LED mounts, network supplies, and APC power backups. Both of these are under the state contract, but there's going to be an additional amount of expense of $200,000 to purchase these different things for the end of the year.
Questions?
Okay. The next one is pickup, removal, and hauling of leaves. As you know, we have bid out Section B for the pickup for the leaves. This section goes from Hillcrest Road to Franklin Avenue and from North Maple Avenue west to the western border of Ridgewood. Within this section, the successful bidder is responsible for picking up the leaves as well as removing them and hauling them to Lakeview compost facility. It will consist of 3 pickups in that area, just as the other areas, and it ends in late December. Outsourcing this area has benefited us in the past because it allows our crews to concentrate on areas A, C, and D and getting them done in a more timely manner. So 2 bid specifications were picked up, 1 bid was received, it's from DTS Trucking. Total amount not to exceed $88,500. The funding is in the streets operating budget. Last year's price was $85,000, so it's gone up $3,500 since last year.
Questions?
Okay, the next one is for our tax collector. This is an annual resolution. Ridgewood Senior Citizens Housing Corporation have an agreement that they do not pay property taxes. In lieu of paying that, they pay an annual service charge to the village for municipal services, which is 6.28 of the prior year's annual gross revenues. The village, by ordinance, also guarantees their timely payment of principal and interest due on revenue bonds issued by the Bergen County Improvement Authority. For this, the village receives an annual reimbursement of $25,000. So this just sets that out for this year, what that dollar amount is.
Questions? Moving on.
The next one is the mailing tax sale notice, again an annual resolution. It's required to allow the tax collector to substitute two mailings of the tax sale notices in lieu of 2 legal notices. It also permits her to add the cost of $25 per mailing to the amount sold at the tax sale. The tax sale is scheduled this year for October 18th.
Any questions?
The next one is the purchase of a Chevy Tahoe for the fire department. It's replacing a 2003 Ford Explorer. It'll cost $35,935.68, and it will be purchased under state contract. It'll be used by the Fire Inspection Bureau. It'll be used to transport personnel and equipment to emergency scenes and to transport personnel to firefighting classes. And the 2003 Ford Explorer will put on Gov Deals for auction.
Questions?
The next one, we're in policy now. We have proposed changes to the ordinance for resident and non-resident EMS billing. We have a memo here from the Director-in-Chief, Tony Lillo. I know he's here this evening in case you do have questions. He's recommending some increases to some of the fees charged for the EMS billing, some saying the same and some new charges. So I'll have him come up in case there are questions, but I'll just go over it briefly. Responding to calls and administering services, non-transport, that actually is staying the same at $125. Providing services and transportation, his recommendation is to increase it from $550 to $750. Mileage costs increase from $14 to $18, and charge for oxygen, which is a new charge, is $50. We're also going to add a paragraph to read that outstanding balances for non-Village of Ridgewood residents shall go to a collection agency after a certain time period. The collection cost is 20% on a dollar going to the collection agency, and then 80% returned to the village. And if there's a balance for a Ridgewood resident, it's not collected. So I don't know if you have any questions or want to discuss further.
Okay, questions? Anyone? No? Okay.
Okay, so we're all good with instituting these new charges?
Yep.
Okay, great. The next one is Tie a Ribbon Campaign, Breast Cancer Awareness. As most of us know, October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Susan G. Komen, North Jersey affiliate, is planning the Tie a Ribbon Campaign. What they are asking is permission to tie pink ribbons on the CBD trees from October 1st to October 31st. And it's a way to remind women to practice self-breast awareness, schedule a clinical exam, and get their mammogram. So as long as you're in agreement, we'll let them know. Thank you. The next one is distribution of wildscape information. These are, they're planning, Ridgewood Wildscape Association is planning to place door hangers on neighbors' doors next to wildscape areas, as well as Kings Pond and Gypsy Pond area. They give citizen action steps to preserve and protect the wildscape areas. And you have pictures of prototypes of what are going to be hung on the doors. And so basically we just want the council's consent for the Wildscape Association to do this.
Okay, so any questions or comments?
So I'll just comment that, that there are some residential properties that have dumped things in some of these parks, so it's pretty obvious where things are dumped. So are our Parks and Rec gonna kind of do like a cursory walk first, or would Wildscape do a walk through?
I mean, they can do a walkthrough, but this is really just to make neighbors aware. If they see people dumping, that they should contact the police, that, things should not be cut down, trees should not be cut down, helping our natural parklands, keeping dangerous invasives out of the park areas, and help keep them litter-free. I'm about to talk about Ridgewood Wildscape in a little bit, about another cleanup they're doing.
Yeah.
So they continue to do those cleanups, which we're very grateful for. So what is it that you want to be done?
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, I know of properties that regularly dump things into parks that they think are, things that are okay to dump. So I would want to give them a warning that they probably shouldn't be doing that.
Well, I think these door hangers will help to let them know that, they should know they shouldn't do it, but.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they should know they shouldn't do it, but they do it, so.
Right, so this will be reinforcement when they find us on their door,
Right.
I think.
Okay.
At least, I think it would be a wake-up call for most people, right?
Yeah.
If you found this on your door.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So everyone's okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is the Special Projects Task Force bylaws and rescinding the resolution for the FAC. So, Mayor Newton, I'll have you discuss this.
Yeah, so this was submitted by the Special Projects Task Force, and which I believe will be appointing formally, but this would be the preliminary step to at least establish the bylaws, which are very similar and pretty straightforward to other bylaws of other boards and committees. It's really kind of self-explanatory. The answer, they'll be following guidance from council, except on the very first project, which we'll talk about tonight in my council report. But beyond that one, they'll start to get projects that we're interested in them facilitating study areas that are specific to our needs, and that's how we'll proceed with them. And they have one organized so that they'll have one coordinator who's responsible for just organizing meetings and taking minutes and keeping everything organized. Any questions?
So what's the process? So let's say that there's something that I would like for the task force to take a look at. How's that formally presented? How's the request put through?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So what I would suggest is that any council member that has an idea for a project that we would like undertaken by the Special Project Task Force, put it together just in a memo to the council, and then we can say, okay, this is, maybe Councilwoman Walsh might have something, and the deputy mayor might have something, and they probably, with 6 members, have enough to split that work. But if there's something that's really in-depth that requires more attention, we might have to then decide to prioritize which one is more important. But we would just put it to the council, and then we would say, okay, this is the one we're going to assign to them. And then that council member presumably would be willing to take the role of liaison for that particular project. Work for everyone? No questions? Okay. Moving on.
Okay, so the next one is the proposed changing to parking at Village Hall complex. It's the municipal complex, actually. As we know, there's a heavy demand because we have library users, we have Village Hall. In the summer, we have the Cash-All Shell, and we have sports. So basically, what this ordinance does is in the police department lot, which is as you come in, that's designated only for Village Hall employees, mayor and village council members, and Village Hall employees obviously include police department. Library Village Hall parking lot, which is the main parking lot out here. As you're driving in, as you know, on your left, the playground is there. So those first 6 spaces closest to that entrance to the playground is going to be designated for playground use. There are a lot of people who use it during the day at all times of the year. It really is a well-used playground, which I'm thrilled to see. And then designated library patron parking spaces. It'll be the 4 parking spaces, 2 on either side of the concrete walkway closest to the library entrance. So it'll be 2 and 2, the facing spaces. This is for a 2-hour use duration between hours of 9 and 6 on all days. Designated Village Hall patron parking spaces. So there's the parking spaces against the fence. There are the parking spaces closer to the library, and then there's the middle section. So in that middle section, the first 3 spots facing each other, so 6 spots total, will be to come to Village Hall, to do Village Hall business. That's a 1-hour duration. And that'll be between 8:30 and 4:30 p.m., 8:30 a.m., 4:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. There's designated motorcycle space, which when you drive into the middle section and the library section is on your right, it's that first space on your right. That can hold up to 2 motorcycles. It's important because, honestly, for a motorcycle to take up an entire space is frustrating when you're looking in a car and trying to find a space. So I think that'll help. And then the non-designated other 137 spots will be for patrons, staff, visitors to Village Hall, the library, the Cashel Shell, and the playground. And no parking for buses or vans transporting 4 or more individuals. All vehicles doing so that are larger than that should be parking at Graydon South. There should be no parking for spectators or participants in sporting events on Veterans Field. I know that the sports groups are working to try to ensure that they will be parking over in Graydon South parking lot. I know that we have the GPS coordinates for that lot, so they can give that out to teams that are coming from outside of Ridgewood. The library spots at the end, if you go straight in, those will still be designated for library employees. And then also all non-police department municipal license plate vehicles, so all of our other vehicles will be designated to be parked along the fence over here. Also, the 7th and 8th spots over here, closer to the playground, will be designated 2 spots for parking enforcement officer vehicles. We are also going to do U-turn prohibition at the Village Hall entrance driveway. Believe it or not, there are people who actually do that, which is crazy considering right there Maple Avenue is so busy. Also, no stopping or standing as you're coming in and going out of Village Hall, up the ramp or down the ramp, the immediate entrance and exit. That's another crazy thing that you see is people stop there to drop their kid off to go to the field, and then it's just, it's backing up cars trying to come in or go out of this area. The final thing is that North Maple Avenue, the parking spots are going to be 2 hours in length. I think originally they were 1 hour, so now they're 2 hours in length. And so those are the parking spaces mostly in front of Village Hall on Maple. So that's what this ordinance encompasses. We're hopeful that this will allow it to be a little less crowded in this parking lot, because I can tell you during the school year from about 10 a.m. to about, through meetings at night, it can be very crowded, especially during the warmer months when the Cashel Shell starts up, and it's difficult to find spots at times.
Questions? I've got a headache from reading this.
I know.
This is so cumbersome.
It's very comprehensive.
I mean,
you know what, when it's put into effect, it really won't be that difficult. Originally, the spots over here for the playground were designated for the playground. It's just designated 2 more spots for the parking enforcement officers, basically letting all the other spots be anyone who comes here, but there are specific designated spots. If you're going to be here at Village Hall for an hour or less, come in and pay your taxes, come pay your water bill, stop in to the building department to get a permit, something an hour or less. It'll also designate the 2-hour spots over by the library, which is what the library asked for. It'll allow our employees to park away from the fence, which is important during baseball season especially. And our municipal vehicles will be parked farther down on the fence, so that also will hopefully not be in harm's way from foul balls. So,
Can I ask a question? How many employees in the buildings, cars are parked there for the whole day?
a lot, actually.
So why don't we have them park over like on Graydon if they're going to be there for 8 hours or?
I can tell you now that in the white-collar contract, all white-collar employees have designated spots in this lot. You know, when we discussed with the library too, you know, did you really want to move their employees? They don't want their employees moved either, you know, so.
So Heather, are we going to have signage for all this?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
we will.
that'll help a little bit.
Absolutely.
How many signs?
Probably a
We'll try not to make it too many, but, and, you know, I think also putting those other lines with the U-turn and the no stopping or standing on the entrance and exit are really gonna help, because I can't tell you how many times all of a sudden someone just pulls over and lets some kids out, and it just makes no sense.
So, I mean, my head's spinning a little bit from trying to keep track. So basically, we're dealing with 3 time ranges. One ends at 4:30 for most village business, 5:30 for the use of the parking enforcement officers'
Correct.
spaces, and then 6 p.m. for the library.
Correct.
So in theory, only baseball games, high school games, would be in conflict in terms of the athletics, right?
Right.
And then casual, if there are any events, but they tend to be a little bit later.
Right.
So then we're talking about really just during the daytime hours. But how many spaces does the village, for employees, departments, library, police, gain or lose? And how many spaces does the public gain or lose in terms of being able to, may I want to go for a jog around Vets Field? Is there a change in distribution of spaces that are available or no?
There's no change in the distribution of spaces. It's just where the allocations are. Because what they're trying to do is get our municipal vehicles out of the police lot, because at this point, the police have many vehicles, newer vehicles, thankfully. And then, you know, the police officers themselves, as they come on duty, park there, because they have a whole, you know, bunch of stuff. They have to move from their personal car sometimes into the police vehicle. They also have to move essential things for their shift into that vehicle. So it'll be beneficial in that way. It allows those who are coming to Village Hall or the library to possibly be able to get one of those short-term spots, which right now possibly might be taken up by employees for 9 hours a day or 8 hours a day. So that'll be better for people coming in for short-term visits.
But to answer his question, it is being allocated because I don't use the playground. So if I come in and there's 6 playground spots open, I can't park in them if everything else is full.
Right, but the likelihood is that it, maybe on a rainy day, it wouldn't be full, but I can tell you, it's really used a lot. I see a lot of people there, and if we find that 6 spots are too many, we can certainly change it to 5 or 4. If you want to do that now, tell me, and we could do less than 6. I mean...
You know, I just remember we had an email a while ago from a resident who had to park a fairly significant distance from the playground and walked within the parking lot with a toddler to get to the playground. And I think at that moment, and this isn't, it's not dizzying to me only because I think we started down this road quite some time ago, and it was an effort to organize and to restructure so that when somebody comes into the lot and they're in that situation where their toddler or they're there just for the playground, and that's most accessible and it's the safest, quickest route to the kids because that little path is right there. They get out of their car, they walk, they're there. So it's safe. And so, and I agree, it always seems to me it's always full. That playground is always a ton of activity there. could be folks coming from the library at the end of that, you know, time spent at the library or anywhere, and they just drive over, they park, and they're playing. A lot of kids over there.
So I'll just
Yeah,
make,
no.
I was gonna say, I'll just make one other quick comment.
Time there.
So Jeannie Johnson's doing all of these studies about walkability, and we can't get people to walk from one lot to another.
You know, I think in
Seriously,
I
this is
mean,
the second conversation tonight. Cottage Street lot to the Walnut Street lot, and this lot to the Graydon lot.
you know, it's a great point, but it's a fact of life. People actually drive, and, you know, we had a meeting on a walkability, you know, a walking initiative, and everybody drove to the meeting, and everybody
That's the
could have,
problem.
actually, I should say I walked, but, you know, so I think in fairness, that's just, that's
Right, you
behavior.
walk here all the time.
I actually,
right.
like, right now can't walk, I hurt my knee, and I didn't walk in the rain, but I do walk here all the time. But that's just like the change in the behavior of where people park.
Right.
It's changing behavior, and I think that's Jeannie's point in all of it, is that initiative to change behavior, but hard as we try.
Right.
Yeah, it's a strange behavioral thing because people are so interested in walking and jogging and fitness, and when they go out to dinner, they want to park right in the lobby of where they're going out to dinner because they don't want to walk a block to go eat and then walk it off on the way back to the car. So I mean, I never really got it either, but that's kind of how, you know, that's kind of what we're facing with now.
I mean, but again, I think that, as Heather pointed out, this is, you know, open to modification moving forward if we see that some spaces are underutilized, and certainly the parking spaces at the playground, are they marked for like a certain hours, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, I think that we can modify it moving forward, but I think this also solves a problem for a big problem for the library. Because they have a deficit, they have deficits on certain instances, so it helps them out, and it kind of just makes it a little bit more organized for everyone, so.
So is everyone okay with it as written, or did you want to modify the number of spots anywhere?
Let's try
Go
it.
down to 4 for the for the park, playground?
Can we, when is this?
Next week, we're going to introduce it.
Can we look at it again and maybe walk around the parking lot and?
Sure.
Inventory the cars.
Sure, I mean, if you want to come, I'll take you on a tour.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to come, I'll show you where the spots are. Okay?
Heather, is this going to be policed at all? I mean, tickets or anything, or no?
Well, you know, it's our hope, and we've said this before at council meetings, and council members have said this, that if it is an ordinance, which is a law, then most people will obey laws. And so that's the hope. It's going to be difficult to enforce, but you know what? I think that we can certainly hope that people will obey the laws and be, you know, if they're going to be here at Village Hall for longer than an hour, that they don't park in those spots. We won't have our employees parking in those spots. And same thing with the library. If they're going in for a little bit to just, you know, go check out some books, and they're there for 2 hours or less, or maybe a program, you know, for 2 hours or less, they'll park in those spots, but other than that, they'll choose another spot if they're doing research all day or something, you know, which some people do in our library. I would hope that they would be respectful of that. It's kind of like those spots that you go to the supermarket and it says, you know, for mothers with children, or, you know, expectant mothers and things like that. You know, some people, I'm sure, who don't have kids with them park there sometimes, and they shouldn't, but they do. So we're hopeful that people will obey the law if it becomes a law, and that's how we'll move forward.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay, the next one is a proposed traffic ordinance for Maltby Avenue. Maltby Avenue, if you know, is off of Godwin Avenue. Half of it is Midland Park, half of it is Ridgewood. The Midland Park side has a 2-hour parking limit. The Ridgewood side has no parking limit. So what happens is people park on the Ridgewood side all day long. It's difficult to pull out of Maltby onto Godwin because people are parked almost to the corner on the Ridgewood side. They've parked too close to the driveway of some of these people on the Ridgewood side. So we have put some tick marks on the driveways. We have also indicated, and this is something that I learned, on the opposite side of the setback from a stop sign is 50 feet. Most of us know that. On the opposite side of a stop sign, it's 25 feet. So we're going to put a sign saying, you know, no parking parking only in front of this sign, you know, no parking here to corner on the Ridgewood side, because there are people who park all the way up to the corner, and as people try to pull out, they can't see. So that's basically what these changes are for, to help alleviate the issues with those particular homes that are having people park all day long, making it difficult for them to get out of their driveways. Again, it's a 2-hour limit that mimics what's going on the Midland Park side, and this way there'll be timed parking in that area.
So I'll just say this was not discussed at Citizen Safety.
Okay.
So just
Do
so everybody
you
knows
want
that.
it to go to citizen safety first?
Our meeting isn't until the end of the month, so it's
So it
gonna
wouldn't
a
be
few weeks
introduced till
away.
October, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's up to the council, whatever you
Because,
want.
obviously, because the Ridge study and everything else that's going on up there.
Well, I was thinking about that also, but it looks like it's 2 hours, and it's between, I guess, what is it, 7 and 8? But it still allows for 2-hour parking, so that would be more than enough time that it wouldn't impact the drop-off or pickup at Ridge, because I know parking there is very difficult and it's very, very scarce, so to take it away would just be adding on to a problem that's already pretty big problem.
So I didn't get a chance to, I was hoping to drive by before the meeting, but I didn't get a chance, so I'm not familiar with multi. But, you know, understandably, I cringe whenever we talk about restricting or limiting parking in any way. My only question would be, you know, have we analyzed what the adverse impact would be with these proposed changes? You know, are we creating another Sherman Place situation where the spillover now goes somewhere else?
We can send out, you know, just let all those residents on Maltby there know about this 2-hour proposal and see if any of them are opposed to it. I don't know that they will be, because again, what's happening now is that people are parking there all day long. And 2 hours at least does allow a service person to come, or, you know, something like that. But we can certainly do that. The other option we have is to introduce the ordinance next week, and then it's not up for a public hearing until October, so it could go to citizen safety still.
But either way, I think we should definitely give notice and have everybody give the chance to come in and express their concerns, because I mean, again, I'm not familiar with the street. I'm sure if I lived there, I'd be, you know, high alert, but.
Okay.
It's the street past Clinton.
So the next street was Clinton.
And now we're opening Clinton,
That's,
so
that's tight.
guess where they're gonna park?
Although I have to tell you that Jane Remus sent me an email, and I explained to her what it was, and she said, that's fine. That'll cover anything that, you know, would cover Ridge. She wasn't concerned about it at all.
Okay.
So, I mean, but certainly we will let the people there on that side of Maltby know. And like I said, we could introduce it next week. If you wanted to bring it to citizen safety, you could still do it at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And then you could come back on October 4th and let us know what their results were, and then go from there.
Okay.
And then I'll also let the people on Maltby who had, you know, wanted this know about citizen safety, so they could attend that as well.
Yeah, and I'll give it to the chairman.
Okay. The next one is the Shedler Park Sound Study. This is a very comprehensive study. It does go through a lot of different information about it. Basically, what we gave out to you was the short version, believe it or not, and the longer version is, I think, 132 pages. What was interesting from it, I think, is the peak noise hour at that, and we did this study back in, I think it was February or early March. And so the leaves were not yet on the trees, and we thought this was the best time to do it because it would be the loudest amount of noise, or the most noise, because you didn't have the leaves on the trees to buffer some of that noise. So the peak noise hour was found to be between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. And in addition, they did indicate that if all of the vegetation were removed, there would be a huge, well, not a huge, but there would be an increase in change in the sound which would occur. At this point, we don't have that we're proposing to remove all the vegetation. At this point, all we're proposing is the down trees or any trees that are going to fall or are not deemed to be healthy trees by a certified arborist. So, and again, when the leaves are on the trees, the sound is less. I think it was good that we went through this process. It does say at the end, there's no federal requirement or state requirement for us to put up noise barriers. I know some of the proposals in the past have been for berms with trees on them. You know, we haven't gotten to that point yet. Really all we're at now is to have this noise study. Certainly this can be shared with the Shedler group if it hasn't already been, and the group that's looking at the Shedler Park renovation and revitalization. And I don't know if you have any questions, you know.
So page 7 assumes basically clear cutting of the property.
Well, that's what it says,
It's establishing
yeah.
really the worst case scenario. in
Correct,
terms of
correct.
And then for the observations, I know we did it when the leaves are off or on.
Off,
Off. So
Right.
we didn't have it while the leaves were on. This is
no,
just-
no. And so, but we thought that would be the best time to do it,
Yeah.
because that would be the worst case scenario. So, that's basically what it says. Anything else?
You want it, you're going to give it to the people, or, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
The group, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, because obviously Mike and Ramon are the liaisons, so certainly you can share this with them. If anyone wants to come in and look at the 132-page one, we can let them look at that as well. But this is a good summary. This, I think, in itself is 32 or 40 pages, so, you know, I think it's a pretty comprehensive summary. So, okay? All right, the next one is the Grove Park Area Cleanup Program. Again, Ridgewood Wildscape and Partners have been kind enough to agree to clean up the Grove Park area. This is Sunday, October 8th, between 1 and 3 o'clock p.m. This is the 11th year that they have organized such cleanup events for the benefit of the village. We, of course, provide chest waders for the adults, gloves and other personnel protective equipment, hand tools and rakes, and we also pick up and dispose of everything that they collect. And if you ever have seen pictures of all the debris that they collect in just even a short 2-hour time frame, it's amazing. I mean, you see everything from tires to street signs to just miscellaneous things you would never imagine would be on our beautiful parks. So I know that the village appreciates their efforts, and they're always looking for more volunteers, so anyone who wants to come out on October 8th, meet them there at Grove Street Park. Whereabouts exactly? At Grove Park? On Berkshire. Okay. So Berkshire would be where you would meet if you want to volunteer. So I think it's a wonderful cause, and we thank Ridgewood Wildscape and your partners for doing this. Okay, the next one is the proposed bus stop, which we did discuss recently. It's a new bus stop, so people didn't have to walk as far on the return bus trip. We do need an ordinance to memorialize it, and so this ordinance will do so. The next one is traffic signal upgrade. This is from our engineering department, who wanted us to know that the traffic signal at East Ridgewood Avenue and North Maple Avenue has been modified. There's a leading left turn green arrow for the southbound direction of Maple Avenue as it approaches East Ridgewood Avenue. The signal control unit has also been upgraded, and it's trying to clear the vehicle queue on southbound Maple Avenue, because many times it backs up all the way to Franklin Avenue. They have been monitoring this, and what they've seen is that when the light turns green for making a right turn from Franklin onto North Maple, the left turn green arrow is also activated, and so people make a the right turn, and then immediately, if they're going left onto East Ridgewood, they're able to do that in one without queuing again. So that queuing issue that we have at that light, and has been there for decades, I want to say, is getting better. So this was really just an update for everyone. Okay, so the next thing is next week's review of next week's meeting. We do have 3 proclamations, Fire Prevention Week, Gold Star Mother's Day, and National Breast Cancer Awareness Week. We also have Ridgewood water resolutions, awarding contract for chlorine analyzers, possibly the professional surveying services for the Elks Club. Ordinances for introduction include vehicles and traffic, the parking for the municipal complex, amending vehicles and traffic for the 2-hour parking on Maltby, amending chapter vehicles and traffic for establishing the bus stop on Goffle Road, and amending vehicles and traffic for the CBD employee parking spaces in North Walnut Street parking lot. We don't have any public hearing on ordinances. Resolutions, we have Title 59 approval and award of contract for renovation of Somerville tennis courts, Title 59 approval and award of contract for furnishing and delivering of polymer for water pollution control facility, Title 59 approval and award of contract for sodium bisulfite and sodium hypochlorite solutions for the water pollution control facility, awarding contract for laboratory analysis services for water pollution control facility and Graden Pool, awarding contract for snow plowing services, awarding contract for pickup, removal and hauling of leaves, awarding contract under state contract for electronic equipment and computer upgrades for Dell, and then also electronic equipment and computer upgrades for SHI. Awarding contract under state contract for a 2018 Chevy Tahoe for the fire department, rescinding the resolution establishing the Financial Advisory Committee, accepting the Bergen County Historic Preservation Grant for the Shedler House Phase 1, authorizing the partial release of escrow funds for 309 Maston Place, establishing the annual service charge and payment guarantee bond for the Ridgewood Senior Citizen Housing Corporation, authorizing the tax collector to charge for mailing of tax sale notices, authorizing the cleaning of Grove Park area by Ridgewood Wildscape and Partners, Title 59, approval and award of contract for Phase 1 for the Shedler land cleanup. I understand from Councilman Hache, we're now ready to move forward with that. It was taken off of the agenda last month. We also have a resolution for the Bee City USA, awarding contract for the Central Valet parking pilot. And we also have a resolution, which I'm going to have Mr. Rogers talk about, to amend the resolution we passed last month regarding the redevelopment, the area of redevelopment at Hudson Street. I'll let you talk about that now.
Yeah, there is, if you remember, last month we resolved to direct the planning board to look at the Hudson Street parking lot and determine whether or not it would meet the criteria of an area in need of redevelopment. There was one aspect that is supposed to be put in the resolution that was not, which is a declaration as to whether or not the project may assume or indicate there's a possibility that it is either a condemnation or a non-condemnation type redevelopment area. There's never been any suggestion in any of the discussions about whether or not that we would ever consider condemning any property by eminent domain. So we have to declare in a resolution and put it in there to say that it is a non-condemnation review. So I'll prepare that and just put it in there, and we'll hopefully vote on it again coming up this next week.
Right. And so, were there any in particular you wanted off the consent agenda?
No, but not me, but I just wanted to ask, can we put on proclamations D for walk to, I think we have to do the walking initiative.
Oh, okay.
Now
Walktober
because it's for October, so I think,
Okay.
but I can get that, I'll put that together and have
Okay,
it
so that's
prepared.
Walktoberfest, right? Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, can you pull Resolution 1388, establishing a financial
Okay,
advisory committee?
sure,
Thanks.
sure. Anything else?
No.
Okay. So, manager's report, the Graden Pool 2017 season ended on Labor Day. Our registered members, compared to 2016, it was almost the same. In 2017, we had 686 adults. In 16, it was 643. Child members was 1,058 for 17, 1,051 for 16. Seniors in 17 was 352. Seniors in 16 was 343. So there was a difference, 2,210 in 2017 and 2,163 in 2016. Our non-residents in 2017, 219. Non-residents in 16 were 211. Day passes in 17 was 8,303, and day passes in 16 were 9,484. So they were very close numbers. This summer was a little cooler, I think, than some other summers. We had a few heat waves, but they were short-lived. So we won't have the financials probably till end of September, beginning of October. But we'll bring that to you as well. I want to let you know that today, our Wednesday senior bus route began. This is being sponsored by Age Friendly Ridgewood. They had 7 seniors, and it goes up to Ramsey Interstate Shopping Plaza. This is a reservation-only service. It operates from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Beth Abbott has been a great partner for financial support of this pilot program. Reservations are accepted by calling the village manager's office at extension 203. The Office of the Bergen County Clerk in Hackensack provides various service daily to the public. They're setting up a satellite office in Ridgewood in the Annie Zuzi Youth Center, which is downstairs in Village Hall, on September 12th, 13th, and 14th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. When they're here, they will accept passport applications as well as take photos for the passport. You can file a business trade name. They will issue notary oaths, and they'll issue photo cards for veterans, senior citizens, and exempt firefighters. So if you take advantage of them being here in Ridgewood, you don't have to make a trip to Hackensack. So it's a nice thing. The Chamber of Commerce 24th Annual Car Show is this Friday, September 8th from 6 to 9 p.m. Over 300 cars will be displayed in the Central Business District from, I think it goes all the way down to Maple Avenue pretty much, all the way up through Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. Admission is free, and come and enjoy a trip down memory lane looking at these wonderful cars, which these people really restore, and they're gorgeous. And then stay for dinner or dessert at one of our restaurants. Ridgewood Guild's Music Festival is this Sunday, September 10th, from 1 to 7 p.m. It's held rain or shine. There's no admission charge. There will be food, wine, and beer available for purchase. Come to Memorial Park at Van Ness Square to hear local bands, including Blue Plate Special, Eugene Thomas and No Big Deal, Stilettos, Declan Power Band, Country Joe Trio, and No Money Down. The Ridgewood Art Institute will also have members sketching and painting during the music festival along East Ridgewood Avenue by the park. Coffee with the Council is this Saturday, September 9th. All new residents are invited to come and meet with members of the Village Council at the Lester Stable, 259 North Maple Avenue, from 10 a.m. to noon. And household hazardous waste disposal is this Saturday, September 9th, Bergen County Campclaw Mountain Reservation in Mawa, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., rain or shine. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Voigt?
Thank you. So the planning board met last night, very short meeting. We talked about the proposed redevelopment zone for Hudson Street, and Bridget Bogert, who is one of the planners that we work with, went over kind of the qualifications as to whether or not Hudson Street qualified, and she said it does. And my understanding is she's going to present, in the council, or is it going to be the planning board?
No, we have to have proper notice for a planning board hearing.
She has to make the full presentation to the planning board.
Got it.
And then the
Okay.
planning board has to vote or make a decision.
Understood.
As
Okay,
to whether or not it meets the criteria.
So September 19th will be the presentation to the planning board.
It may not be the 19th. I think that's got to be worked out. You got to talk to your planning board attorney. It may be the first meeting in October, which I think is the...
It just has to be noticed properly.
Just has to be noticed properly.
Got it. And then I think September 19th as well is the Enclave is going to be presenting. And that'll be a follow-up kind of meeting as to what some of the issues with the Enclave are. Can we get that televised?
I'll check.
Okay, thank you. I think it's it. Thanks.
Oh, that's it, okay. All right. Deputy Mayor Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor. Green Team met last night. As I mentioned before, we went through B City, and Frank Mortimer was good enough to come and present to us. This Sunday is the deadline for filing for the Sustainable Jersey certification, so we're just tying up some loose ends, and we'll see how many more credits that we get toward our goal of being a silver-rated municipality through the state of, through Sustainable Jersey. So we're pretty confident we'll be able to do it, but we'll keep you updated as different things start coming in. And for that, I'd like to announce the anti-idling campaign that we're going to be engaging in. The Ridgewood Environmental Advisory Committee and the Green Team are working in conjunction with the schools and HSAs. They've handed out, I believe, close to 5,000 anti-idling bookmarks. Some are available in the lobby, some are available in my Firebird if you really want, some after the meeting. But I'd also like to read this statement to just help with our application to Sustainable Jersey as a requirement. So in 2009, a previous council wisely passed a resolution urging adoption of an anti-idling resolution. This supports the state of New Jersey's regulation regarding cars whose engines are on while the car is parked, whether it's in line for school pickup, recycling center, making a cell phone call, or any other reason. Idling engines is wasteful and harmful. It releases pollutants into the atmosphere. There have been increases in asthma diagnoses due to engine idling. With today's modern technology, there is no need to keep your car engine on while you are parked. Years ago, the state of New Jersey passed a law prohibiting idling of heavy trucks and buses. In 2009, they expanded that law to include passenger vehicles. Of course, there are exceptions. Fires, trucks, ambulances, police cars, and other emergency vehicles. There are also exceptions for extreme weather conditions where heaters or air conditioners must remain on for safety. But for all other times, especially in carpool lanes, engines must be turned off. REAC and the Green Team have printed up the bookmarks, which I mentioned, and they are available on the desk in the lobby, and they have been distributed through the HSAs in the schools. So I would just like to thank everyone who's been involved with this, and that is my report.
Thank you. No idling. Move it.
No idling.
No idling,
No
that's
idling.
right.
Councilman Walsh.
That's right. I just have RAC to report on. So our last artist series, Drew Martin, our resident Drew Martin, and his colleague, Michael Thompson, it was fabulous. We had a packed house. We really had an enjoyable evening. We really didn't have enough time. We were like kind of rushing people out because we finished up, but would have stayed there another half hour asking questions and talking about it. So that has kind of become our thing, our artist series, so we're working on that. We're working on our calendar for 2018, and that was pretty much our whole meeting last evening.
Looks
That's all I have.
exciting.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing I have to report on is on the CBD Advisory Committee. We had a local resident, Jeannie Johnson, come in to present at the August CBDAC meeting. Jeannie has been leading a series of forums called Moving Forward Together, and I believe the next one will be on September 26th at the Ridgewood Public Library, and it's titled Moving Forward Together in a Pedestrian-Friendly Village. There will be several panelists speaking about the benefits of experiencing our village on foot. So directly tied to these forums, Jeannie proposed that the CBDAC collaborate on a village-wide, month-long walking initiative for October to be cleverly called Walktoberfest. And the idea is to entice residents to learn more about our village and its businesses with the hope of creating the awareness to promote more walking. We definitely don't do enough of that. There will be historic, architectural, food, fashion, beauty, parks, and interfaith tours available. Many people don't know this, but Ridgewood was originally designed to be a walkable town. That's why, if you look at the location of the elementary schools, they're within 2 miles of where its student bodies reside. But when we encourage residents to walk whenever possible, we strengthen our bond as a community. We add to personal health and well-being, and we create a safer environment for pedestrians. The more you walk, the more aware you are of the potential perils, hazards that the pedestrian can face. And the idea is for people to get to know one another in our village just a little bit better. The scope of Oktoberfest will also include guided municipal tours, perhaps guided by members of the council of Village Hall and other municipal facilities. But CBDAC strongly supports this initiative. We thought it was a great idea. and we'll lend our support wherever possible. Gail McCarthy will be the point person in CBDAC coordinating with Jeannie. So please be on the lookout for promotional materials and emails, as well as social media posts throughout the coming weeks, which will include information regarding the sponsors, tour dates, the participants, signing information, and additional program details. So we're very excited about this. The other update from CBD Advisory Committee is the website update. We finally finalized the the business classifications, just on how to organize the page for those who are visiting, and also the information about us and any information relative to Ridgewood. So things like, you know, if you want to open a business here, sort of kind of leading you if you want to live here, different ways to lead people and to be engaged through the site. You know, early in the year, the committee came up with some ideas for the enhancement/beautification of the CBD. A lot of good discussion led to some great ideas, including even teaming up with Shade Tree on looking at the tree wells, and also looking at doing plantings and so on. And we're also going to be doing some, we did a design of banners that are going to be hanging from the light posts in the downtown. And it's just, you know, just to create a uniform kind of branding for the Ridgewood downtown. So when everybody comes in, just sort of sends a message, look, this is Ridgewood, we're here, we're the place to be. And creating that, that buzz we hope the website's going to really elevate as well, so in terms of the awareness about the downtown. The next CBDAC meeting is Thursday, September 14th, 8:30 a.m. We have a hard stop at 10 a.m., so everyone's invited to come and listen in, or we have public comments as well. So.
No idling.
No idling.
Okay. All right, that's it, okay. So the Special Project Task Force started their first assignment, which is a study of the Village of Ridgewood energy cost savings based on participation in various programs and projects. Hopefully we're hopeful the resulting final product will delineate village energy spending versus credits received and develop a comprehensive financial benefit burden analysis for the biogas project at the water pollution control facility, which also includes solar panels installed on various village buildings. So they're off and running with this, and the deputy mayor is the first council liaison assigned to this particular project. And it appears that they'll be able to work on this with 3 members, and so they're looking forward to being assigned a second project. And just for the record, I have one already kind of in my mind, and I think it could be beneficial to us. It's kind of a little traffic analysis of the multiple studies that we've done. So we just have to define that and write out the study materials and put it all together, and hopefully they can start on that one once we all decide that that's okay. Last night, the Master Plan Subcommittee met at 6 p.m. before the regular Planning Board meeting. Carlos Rodriguez is a planner designer out of Princeton, and he was kind enough to spend about an hour and a half with the small group and Bridget Bogart, our planner, walking us through the initial stages of community participation and involvement in the master plan process. And so from the very early stages, we spoke about participating through different types of surveys, online surveys, which also could be mailable, available in hard copy for individuals who don't have access or are not really comfortable taking a survey on a computer, and also followed up, and these are all kind of ideas still that are floating around. And the second option, which would be a follow-up to a more town-wide survey, would be what's called this visioning process. And a visioning process would put us all in one big room, and in different areas of that room you would have different parts of your master plan. So if one individual or certain people had an interest in the central business district, they would go to that area and kind of work on that. There are people that want to engage in open space study, part of the master plan, then they would be in that portion of the room and work with that. And then there could be a lot of crossover back and forth, but this would be like a whole day event of this overall visioning. But the initial piece of it would be that big survey, and that would kind of tell us what people are thinking, where they want to go. And I think that he was really just fabulous and had some really great ideas, and I think it's a great step, and we're still kind of organizing this entire master plan process. So it was very generous of him to come in and spend the time with us and walk us through this, so we were really appreciative and got so much out of it. It was a great experience, and we'll keep everyone posted on this. Access Committee, Ridgewood Access, met August 17th. There was a lively discussion about the upcoming Access Ridgewood weekend. I'll have a hopefully full report next week with all the details about all of the activities, which are, as always, will be similar to previous years. There was a discussion of employment and work opportunity tax credits for local businesses employing special needs members of our community, and I think there was going to be an outreach to the CBD Advisory Committee and Chamber of Commerce liaison, which happens to be you, Councilman Hache, just to kind of take this package and bring it to the different businesses to see if they're interested in employing special needs individuals and applying for those tax credits, which is a win-win for everyone. Access will likely revisit their Access Facebook page, and then we had the all-important discussion about special needs housing and future opportunities in Ridgewood. And that's actually a daunting task for any family member of a special needs individual, because the lists are, you wind up on a list, and the list could be thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of names, and it's very difficult to find appropriate housing, and especially close to Ridgewood and close to family, where there's just a network and support. And let's see what else. And Planning Board last night, I just want to point out that we had 3 applications on scheduled for last night, and there seemed to be some confusion. All 3 applications were postponed to different dates. They're not all the same dates. They have been postponed for a variety of reasons. It was just luck of the draw that all 3 were postponed. There was some confusion about whether or not the meeting was canceled. The meeting was not canceled. There was a meeting last night. Those were merely postponed and will be rescheduled and posted on the agendas when they're meeting. And I think that is it. Okay. So with that, okay, we'll have a resolution to go into closed session.
Comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. Oops, sorry about you guys. Public comment. All right, 5 minutes, name and address. How did I do that, public comment?
Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving. And Heather, thank you for the kind words for Wildscape. We're really proud of what we've done, and we love to get dirty, so, you know, that's great. Anyway, I was asked to announce that the League of Women Voters of Ridgewood is presenting another in a series of water forums, and it's October 5th, 7:30 to 9:30 in the Senior Center right here. And they're going to discuss 3 things. How does Ridgewood get the lead out? Is the new ordinance working? And what's new for Ridgewood Water? And I think this is something that we all should hear from the people that run Ridgewood Water, Mr. Calby, Mr. Timoney, and I think it's going to be a very worthwhile forum. The Water Committee for the Ridgewood League has been doing a great job. I do commend them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie, for that reminder.
Hello again, Cynthia Hallaby, 374 Evergreen Place. I continue to be concerned about the train station plaza, most particularly when I hear Mr. Seaton make reference to the idea of reducing the area minimally, which actually is 80%, and that was in the application that was submitted to the DEP. It's very difficult for us to follow what you were saying this evening, or it was for me, without seeing the plans. And I think it really would be very interesting for the public to see the 2 plans that you are looking at. It's very, very difficult for us to understand exactly what's going on. You talk about the north side, the south side, both of which are protected by the New Jersey historical rulings. So if I could have copies of the plans, or if you could give me some detail, I'd be most grateful. I just am very interested, and I don't want to see any of that greenery cut back. It is historical land.
Thank you.
So could I have a copy?
No, right now they're draft, they're not finalized.
Oh,
They're draft plans.
When will they not be draft? Why is the public not allowed to see this?
Well, I think the one that John has. Let's take a look at it, and perhaps we can email it then.
And, we're proposing to have John Jar come to our later September meeting and do a full presentation once he refines it based on what the council said tonight.
And John Girard is?
We hired him as a village traffic consultant.
Okay.
Through Petrie Traffic and Engineering.
But is the plan to still cut back on the greenery?
You know what, he's going to have to revise it based on what was said tonight. So why don't we wait until that's presented? Because anything that was presented tonight was merely for discussion.
Okay, but as I say, if you're presenting this to the public and we really cannot see what you're talking about, you should appreciate it makes it a little difficult for us.
Well, we're going to see. He might be able to do something where we can put it on the TV, so, and big enough so people can see it, so.
And excellent. Well, my concern really is with cutting back on the greenery, but if a lot of you do not go up to the train station, I go every single day, and I would urge you to go for the 7:02 a.m., which I think is the most popular train, just so that you see what the traffic is like at 7:02. The number of SUVs who just drop off whoever it is, here, there, everywhere, blocking traffic. It would be an education for you to go early in the morning and again in the evening. It's a very dangerous situation. So I think really adding 17 spaces could just really add a lot of aggravation and a lot of danger to the area. Thank you.
Rorik Halaby, 374 Evergreen. I'm confused. Is this a public meeting? It is. So if you have a document in a public meeting, why can't the public have access to it?
Well, it was a document for discussion, and it wasn't refined, so
Whether it's refined or not, it's something that you're using.
All right, you could just make your comment. I'm sorry.
Okay. My other comment is, if the mighty NorthJersey.com is confused about what headline to use, you can imagine how confused the public is as to what you're doing. And so also what I'm trying to do, and which you evaded beautifully, Mayor, is the need to have public input as to what you're doing with the garages. We don't have those meetings. All at once you distracted us by having red herring about the headlines. We need to have meetings. You need to call meetings to bring in the public to understand what's going on. Now, one thing you said was that you would not tolerate my comments. Let me remind you of something. I gave you copies of each, one copy to each one of you. I'm exercising my rights under the First Amendment in expressing my views. I'm not being rude, I'm being very, very direct. If you cannot tolerate my comments, I'm sorry. You'll have to live with it, because you have to encourage people to express their views. Okay, and if you want me to read the First Amendment, I can read it for you. And if you want me to give you more copies of this, I will be happy to do so. But for you to look down at me and say you'll not tolerate my comment as if I'm being rude to you, I have news for you. The other point I want to make is every time someone says something you disagree with, you start making these cute comments about the fact that these misleading statements. Nothing misleading about these things. People are expressing their opinions. You should welcome people's opinions. Okay? So please don't tell me you won't tolerate it. Tolerate it or not, it's your problem. I will express my views. Thank you very much. I did not come to this country, by the way, to stand in fear of anyone, to tell me what to say and what not to say. For you to look me in the eye and to say you will not tolerate my comments, I am offended because you are stopping me from expressing myself. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Mr. Halaby, we have rules of decorum in this room, and that's what we're following.
Yes, I am following the U.S. Constitution, which trumps any rules of decorum. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Any other public comments?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Clerk, Village Attorney, and Deputy Clerk, and public.
My name is Russell Forenza, 228 Emmett Place, Ridgewood, New Jersey, 07450-2803-281. I'm here tonight to talk about a few things that I'm in favor of. I'm not in favor of us spending $1.6 million for a building for water. You know that's not the final cost, and I don't even know if that's the best price for the building. That building will have to go under renovations when those people move in. So we'll be adding another $1 million to the price tag. They're going to be giving up space here at Village Hall. Is somebody else going to move into that space? And is that going to be renovated? And is that another cost? I mean, all these plans must be worked out in advance, so you must have all the answers to know who's moving where and what's going on with whatever's happening. Was water paying rent for the space they were occupying in Village Hall, since it was a separate entity with Glen Rock, Wyckoff, and Midland Park? If they weren't, they probably should have, but I don't know what type of written agreement was made that either they do pay or they don't pay. Could that space be purchased at a cheaper cost, that building? I mentioned that a little bit. The current owners of the building, are they paying taxes? If they are, that means another building is off the tax rolls in the village of Ridgewood. Less money coming into village against all the expenses going out. Parking. If they do use that as a parking facility over there, that means the people that were parking out there can now park over there, so that should free up some spots in this main lot here. He's always talking about parking. If you talk to me, I'll give you some answers. I don't know how much parking is at that lot over there. I don't know how many cars it can accommodate, whatever they got. But you could certainly move some village employees out of here, and they can park there all day, if that's so desired. Graydon Pool is greatly underutilized for parking. I know you may have talked about this many times, but nobody listens to me when I say half of the year one side is not occupied, the other half of the year the other isn't. Ridgewood High School now occupies the one side, and since I'm now retired, I do a lot of traveling back and forth. That lot where Ridgewood High School parks is basically empty the entire pool season. These people, merchants, can take their cars up there, park them down there, and walk the 5 or 6 or 10 blocks, the 10 minutes, whatever it takes them to get to work, free up all those spaces. They won't do it. They're lazy. Village employees could park over there also, free up the spaces here for more people who come to the library, whatever they want to do, and have extra spaces here, especially if they're here all day and they're not going anyplace. If they're going in and out, I can understand that, but they're usually in village cars. The waste baskets in town. The new ones, you see right through them, so you see the garbage. So if people are out there eating dinner on the sidewalk and they got to look at garbage in the waste paper baskets, that's not very appetizing. I know I've heard that it could be used because you want to see if there's any bombs in there. Well, whatever the case may be, I'm sure that could be. But I think if it was somehow enclosed, I think it would look a little more nicer and neater for the village. Looking at that now is really an eyesore, in my opinion. I mean, you people have your own opinions. Obviously, you don't think so. But that's my opinion. Whether the rest of the people think so, that's their opinions. If nobody complains about it, they like it. I never got an answer on why the $700,000 in missing coins, how that person could actually pick up that money and lug it out the building into their car. I mean, you can't do $700,000 worth of coins in one day, 1 week, a month, or whatever. Why that type of money is even was sitting in City Hall, Village Hall, is unbelievable. Because when I was in government, that money had to be deposited within 24 hours or 48, depending on what it was, automatically. So whoever made that big mistake, the cameras were there, the cameras weren't working. Well, the cameras weren't working for 2 months. The guy couldn't have taken that money out in one day, and he had to have help. There had to be other people involved in this. This is a crime. The police department knows about it, and I'm sure they will not speak and talk about it. So there's a big cover-up going on in this town for $500 to $700 or $1 million, whatever it is going on. Nobody will speak about it. It's a big cover-up. The guy's going to pay it back. Fine. I've seen people take $100 out of a store and they're locking them up in jail.
This person gets no jail time or nothing, and whatever. I have nothing against that person. Whatever deal they cut, they cut. But the answer is, we're not getting the information. Somebody's holding back information in this town, and they won't give it out. Why? I don't know. It's not your council. It goes previous councils. I understand all that. But you know what? Nobody follows up. Nobody goes after and gets the real reasons why and tells the people why this is going on.
Okay, sorry.
I don't want to lose my 5 minutes. Go ahead.
It went off the beeper, sorry. So just real quick, I think we can answer the questions on the water, the Elks Club. So the purchase price is not 1.6, it's 1.1, and presently it's a partial tax payment, I believe, so it's not paying full taxes. Furthermore, the answer to the question, the burning question, because I've had it for a long time, is whether or not Ridgewood Water paid taxes, rent to the Village of Ridgewood for the space it occupied in this building. The answer to that is no. Okay, so no, and so what's happening here is we have a need for our own, so I think in this council, and to Councilwoman Walsh's credit, she decided we should separate these two entities when we operate our meetings, and it actually put us in a mindset of separating Ridgewood Water really, truly, even though we understood it all along, as a separate entity. And as a separate entity, we start to treat it like that. So we've separated the Ridgewood taxpayers from the Ridgewood Water ratepayers, and I think we've been successful at that. And so looking at that, we recognize the need of the village for more space, and by shifting Ridgewood Water over and keeping it within the campus and proximity, consolidating under one roof, multiple locations, it becomes a more efficient and better process and operation, but it also frees up much needed space for the village, no longer burdening the Ridgewood taxpayers, and shifts that to the Ridgewood Water ratepayers, where it belonged all along to your, I think, and that's the question about the rent. Moving on to the quarters, I agree with you. I don't know what else to say. I think we all agree. I think everyone here agrees. So I don't, the prosecutor's office had it. I don't know what more we can do.
I'd like to know how the one person can remove so much money without help.
And I don't want to, it's not, Q&A time, but I agree with you. I'm with you there, and it's as frustrating for us. And, I think we were there at tail end of, I guess, the settlement or whatever happened. I think, or maybe Councilwoman Walsh was in that too. So it's incredibly frustrating for all of us, but thank you.
But you haven't got the answer for that. The prosecutor's office, do they have the answer?
I think that they're satisfied with the outcome, and I don't know what else to do.
Well, tell them one person in the public is not satisfied with the outcome.
I guess you can call
and that's
them.
me. I'm not satisfied.
No, we're not satisfied. No, there's many people in the public not satisfied, but thank you, Russ. Thank you.
Just a few other things.
I think that time...
Yeah, but you took my time.
No.
Took all my time.
People went off, but you can email. Shoot us an email.
Just let me finish, Mayor, please. As far as the water company, there are such things as cell phones and teleconferencing and things like that, where you don't have to have them all together at one particular point in time. So again, the need for them to all to be together. Mayor, I've been to council meetings at 2 o'clock in the morning, working for the city of Patterson. So, you're looking at 10 o'clock, believe me, that's early.
Russ,
I was elected to be early on that.
Point of order, we're going to just stop a minute. We're going to stop. We have rules. We have rules. Thank you.
Good evening again, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I just want to comment that my family had a great time at Graydon this season. Water quality was excellent. Snack bar was run a little bit better than it was run in 2016. Food quality was better. The service was better. So everything was very good at Graydon this year, with the exception of the fact that absolutely nothing was done to the bathrooms. So I'm very much looking forward to that bathroom renovation project. Hopefully it is an interior project only and is not an exterior project, which means we have to go to historic preservation or go to the state or anything. But the bathrooms do need to be cleaned up a bit. We were very, I was on that Graydon improvements team. We were very much hoping that the bathrooms were improved this year. Unfortunately, that did not happen, but please make that a priority for next year. The other thing that I noticed this year is that at certain times, the scanner was working, and you could scan a badge in at a remote location. At other times, I guess the Wi-Fi was down and it didn't work. But all in all, a great season at Graydon. I did note that the Bergen record indicated that people at the Jersey Shore were saying that their business was down 20% this summer. So if we had the same basic numbers as we did in 2016, we did pretty good in comparison to what happened at the Jersey Shore. I would like to make a comment about something that the mayor said with respect to the reconfiguration of parking lots. And I believe you said, Mayor, that it is absolutely amazing what can happen, how many more spaces you can gain when you reconfigure a parking lot. And every time I go by the Hudson Street lot as it stands now, it looks to me like there is an amazing amount of wasted space in that lot. And I always wonder why we just didn't pay an expert to come in and reconfigure that and perhaps gain 50 more spaces there. I know there are several entrances and exits to that. So I'm hoping that before garage goes in that location, somebody's going to take a look at that lot and see if it can be reconfigured and see if we can squeeze maybe 50 more spaces in there and resolve our problem for nickels as opposed to millions of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Boyd. Anyone else? Okay, now we'll take a resolution to go into closed session.
Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meeting closed session on September 6, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached, and that said closed session be held in the Calcus Room on the 4th floor of Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to legal matters to include Ridgewood Water, Valley Hospital, COA, RCRD, and unlawful enrollment of students in Ridgewood Public Schools. Personnel contract negotiations to include supervisor union contract, contract negotiations to include potential purchase of properties, Graden Pool restrooms, and Glen Park Village RIC development. Personnel to include appointments to boards and committees for RAC, SPTF, CRAB, CDAC, RUAC, Shade Tree, Green Tape, and Planning Board. This matter is allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 at sec, and be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. Have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.